The SEC tournament starts on Tuesday and goes through Sunday. It will be a single elimination for the first round as well as the semis and championship, with the other 3 rounds, second, third, and fourth, being double elimination. So a little bit hectic, a little crazy, but it's to whittle down all the teams at first and then see which one can really get through the mud and figure out how to get through and win the championship.
Yeah, a bit of an interesting format there in the SEC. Like you mentioned, 12 teams in there. 4 of them have byes. The 4 teams with byes are Tennessee, Texas A&M, Arkansas, and LSU jumping in there after that sweep over Vandy. Yeah, should be a great weekend and certainly have some hosting implications as well. I would say for me, the largest implications are for Arkansas, who just lost their weekend once again. LSU, who just jumped in on the fringe of potentially being able to host, as well as Auburn. And if Auburn wins their first round matchup, they would be playing LSU. So that matchup could be huge when it comes to hosting implications there for these teams.
Yeah, and I feel like at this point, because it's the SEC, it feels like most teams, if they win the tournament, have a pretty good chance of hosting, even if they're one of the lower seeds. But I guess unless you're like South Carolina, Kentucky, or Alabama, you probably have a pretty good chance of hosting if you can run the table. But yeah, besides that, Tennessee definitely or probably going to be the number 1 seed, definitely going to be a top 8 seed in the college playoffs. But A&M, like you said, is definitely a team that could have some pretty big hosting implications. They look like they could be a top 8 seed, but they would probably need to have a pretty good tournament to solidify that position. And like you said, also LSU, that is a definite team that could be a host, but might not if they have a bad tournament. So along with the first round matchups, because there are byes for the top 4 teams. There aren't great matchups, I wouldn't say, just because the top names aren't there, but definitely still some intriguing games. For me, I'd say one of the big ones is Georgia and Alabama. Since Georgia has fallen so far recently, it seems like they need a pretty good run to be a host. They're definitely making the tournament, but to be in that hosting conversation, they need to put some wins together. And Alabama, you don't really know what you're getting with this team. They just came off a series win against Arkansas, so they seem, if they can run from there, then they can definitely make some big plays and get into the tournament.
Yeah, that's certainly a good matchup to look at. Like we noted earlier in the podcast, that Alabama, if they win this matchup against Georgia, they will play Arkansas as they just did this weekend. So you could say pretty favorable spot for Alabama here, even though they're one of the lowest seeds, playing a Georgia that's on the decline and could end up playing Arkansas, who they just beat. But my favorite first round matchup that I highlighted was Vanderbilt against Ole Miss. Both teams that looked to be hot and then just lost their most recent weekend. I think both are sitting just below 500 in the conference. So really pivotal weekend for both of them. And the winner is rewarded by playing Tennessee. So they have a lot to look forward to if they win this matchup. Certainly can put a stamp on their resume if they're able to make a run through this winner's bracket especially.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to gauge both of those teams at the moment. But Ole Miss just worked their way back into the college baseball tournament, while Vandy just played themselves out of a host spot, it seems like. So a lot on the lines for both of these teams if they can get a run together. Obviously, it's going to be a tough one since whoever wins this game will then go on to face Tennessee, but it's anybody's game in the tournament, so we shall see.
Yeah, and then for as far as my favorite to win the tournament, I actually went with Texas A&M here. They are consistently winning weekends. It looks like they should have a fairly decent first round matchup, either playing Florida or South Carolina. And if they win that matchup, they will most likely be playing Arkansas, who hasn't been as consistent as of late. So I really like their outlook as far as making it to the final, and that's where they would meet Tennessee. And I honestly just would like to see Texas A&M win that one, and I do think they have the talent on that roster to be able to do so.
Yeah, it should be interesting to see if Tennessee can come out with all their firepower going, just because there isn't that much implications involved. Obviously, winning the conference tournament is big, but it's not as big as what these other teams need for actual implications. With Tennessee probably being the number one overall seed already, that being locked down, it's not that much to really go for. So A&M was definitely a team that I could see winning it. I put them in my notes, but I just put Tennessee as, I mean, they're the favorite, so I feel like you have to at least give them that recognition. But yeah, anything else you want to add to the SEC tournament?
No, should be an exciting week for them. Looking forward to watching a lot of those games. Like we mentioned, a lot of implications as far as host and then a couple bubble teams as well in that conference.
Thank you for watching and listening. If you enjoyed, we would really appreciate a like and subscribe for more weekly college baseball content.